episode.
Oh yeah, you missed some gold.
I know. You say that all the time. But I've been doing that recently where I just hit record before I don't even tell them, like, I'm recording now. And you just gotta get onto it.
Intervention podcast, is that 2 people?
3.
Oh
It's Nick, Steve, and Levi.
Today I was listening and I thought it was just one person and then Mike, and then there were so many different voices, and I'm like, oh, what's happening? Okay, that makes sense. I really like.
I guess they also post
say.
those live ones, right?
To be fair, I guess they're a lot, like way more often than I deserve to. So,
all right. Well, we can get started. I'll introduce everyone, and then we'll talk about Biff and Back to the Future. All right. This week on Left of the Projector, we are talking about the 1985 film Back to the Future. And joining me to discuss, I have Mike from the Turn Leftist podcast, and I have Caitlin and Cullen from Caitlin's Conspiracy Corner podcast. Thank you for joining today.
Hello, we're so excited.
Very excited to talk about almost getting a BJ from your mom.
Yeah. And finding out that your dad's a pervert and a peeping Tom.
Yes. Well, I mean, maybe he changed his ways after his future was changed, which
That's true.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about this movie. I mean, I'll just quickly say, this is one of my probably all-time favorite movies, trilogies. It's just always been there, other than Lord of the Rings, trilogies go. Maybe the original Star Wars trilogy, like those are like the Mount Rushmore of trilogies. But I don't know. I know. I think did Colin pick this off the list of movies? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think this was on my short list. But I agree that we'll probably make fun of it quite a bit. But I love this trilogy a lot, and yeah, especially the first one. The second one was my favorite growing up, but hasn't aged super well. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, watching this last night at the last minute. I realized that whenever you guys decided on doing this one, I was like, I don't want to do that. That was boring. But then we started watching it. I was more like, I don't want to do that one because I don't know anything about it. And then we started like watching it, and I started remembering like all of the facts that Cullen has told me over the years randomly about Back to the Future. And I'm like, I know so much about this movie that I don't fucking care about because of this autistic ass bitch info dumping nonstop about it. So I do know a lot about it.
That's what I do. That's what I bring to this relationship.
Yeah, I think I said where we're going, we don't need roads probably 800,000 times in my life. Among other lines, but that's always a standby. And Mike, I'm going to out Mike. You said you love the third one, which I also like, but I think
I love them all. Well, actually, so this is my really guilty thing is that I cannot still tell the difference between the second and third one. Like, what is the second one, and which is the old Western one? Like,
second one is they go 30 years in the future, so It's not 2015.
What's the third
I just
one?
know that the other sequels, I like them equally. The third one is the Old West one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just like both the sequels equally. The original, I guess I probably would always think is the best. And I like Back to the Future for mostly nostalgic reasons, like when I was younger. But then as I get older, I would mostly use Back to the Future either just for quotable situations because there's so many quotes. Like, just the fucking line would always come up at band practice of all reasons. Like, oh, you want a Pepsi, son? You're going to pay for it. Or, like, just making fun of his life preserver. Like, what do you think, you're going to float away? Or, like, when he walks in the diner, like, the idea that a vest is, like, weird. But then I find that in my recent years, I've mostly referenced Back to the Future because you're talking about the future that people thought they were going to have. When you're talking about, like, hoverboards or, like, flying cars. And then you're like, oh, actually, like, we have more like the Back to the Future where everything's just gambling and, like, shoddy suburbs and drug addictions and everything. It's like... that's because I'm always doing communist things online, so it's all agenda posting.
Yeah, that's the thing that I noticed. I noticed this before, but I really was like paying attention this time is you look at the. I mean, well, we can talk about the plot, but if anyone hasn't seen this movie and they're listening to this, I don't know what the hell you're doing. But the past, 1955, I feel like that's sort of like I sort of saw it this time as this is what like conservatives want as the future.
Absolutely.
Like their past is just kind of what they want. This white supremacist patriarchy, in just a fever dream of whatever you want to call it, and that's perfect. That's perfection for them.
And a fictionalized version, right? Like that's the thing is like you go back the scene where he wakes up and you hear Mr. Sandman playing and he's walking around that really clean little town square and you have all these like mom and pop shops, like the stationery shop when you need to go get something printed or whatever. It's an idealized version, but it's revanchist. It's like this past never existed, and then even when it did exist, it wasn't great for people like the guy who you tell him that he could be mayor someday and his eyes light up because the very idea of that is just so foreign to him. And Evan, you pointed out to me in the side chat like just how many things he changes, and you compared Marty McFly to like the Forrest Gump, and I thought that was such a great thing because it is pretty much like the whole thing of the movie is that he goes back in time, changes a bunch of things with his little subtle machinations here and there, but the fact that you like started to list them all, and I'll save it for you to like actually do the listing, but like there were way more than I realized.
There could be more. I mean, Cullen, if you've seen this movie a number of times, I'm sure you'll think of one that I have missed.
Sorry, I just had to go deal with our crazy French bulldog. I missed what you guys were talking about.
She's very blind and
we were
very
talking.
confused.
Mike was talking about how first I was mentioning kind of the 1950s era part of this movie is very much like what a conservatives kind of want as their actual lives, and then also on top of it, how many different things that Marty influences or invents. And I was reading the list of some of them to him, and I was saying probably ones that I missed that are kind of like subtle.
Yeah. So what were some of the ones that you were thinking of? Well, the obvious thing is...
Well, I'll lay out all these ones, and then we can talk about some of the other things. So I've got skateboard, rock and roll. He technically invents time travel because he's the one who goes back in time to tell Doc about the time machine. So I guess he invents time travel. He invents his dad's book. He technically invents Star Wars and Star Trek, right? Because he uses Planet Vulcan and Darth Vader. Biff's business, which is like a car business, right? He smashes his car and somehow becomes interested in detailing cars, and also he makes the mayor the Goldie becomes mayor because of his words
Suggestion.
True. Yeah,
but in true white man fashion, he goes back and just gives all the inventions that someone else did to those same people, and then they invent them again. Like,
yes.
And to be fair, probably Star Trek and Star Wars don't exist anymore because now all that stuff is in his dad's book.
Oh, shit. That's true.
So he uninvented them.
Because you couldn't name something Darth Vader if it already is in his book.
Right. So that's
Now, see, I think this is the actual danger that we really get into having an episode on Back to the Future without being total dorks about it, because I guarantee there's so much online video essay and like YouTube stuff about like the multiverse theory and where it interacts with Back to the Future and how it's like not consistent with how he goes back in time and changes so many things, and just like, who fucking cares, dude? Like, just stop. Like, you're just being a dork. Like,
I was watching this movie on Sunday with my daughter. She had seen it once before, but she was rewatching it, and it was kind of interesting to see her reaction to some of these things. It's definitely different. I think at the beginning, like, isn't it weird that Doc is friends with a 17-year-old boy? Like, that alone.
why is that weird?
Like I got all kinds of stuff.
I mean,
wait, I had so many, like, you guys didn't have like a bunch of older, like, really kooky scientist friends when you were like a teenager?
Well, what state are they in? Because maybe 17's cool, man.
It was the
suppose.
80s.
That's
So I
true.
think it's less.
That's true.
Weird.
It is the weirdest.
Why is it gotta
part
be
of the
sexual, you
movie.
guys? See, you're giving leftists a bad name. Can't it just be innocent, like, science fun?
He's just teaching him about physics.
Yeah, it would make more sense if he's like a teacher or something, or like how do they even know each other?
That's what I was confused about. I thought there was like some background that Cullen was gonna give me, and then he was like, "No, it was never explained. They just know each other," and I don't like that.
They also didn't explain where he got his sort of family fortune, even in the older movie. You know, like in the original, the third movie. They don't ever say it. You know, he just clearly has like a trust fund or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like only mentioned in, like, there's some headline or something that you see briefly that says there was a fire or something he squandered all of his family fortune or something, but it's never explained like who he is or like. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the actual thing that would make sense with the going back in time theory, is that in the third one, when they go back to the Old West, it's like Doc Emmett Brown has a bunch of inventions that he could reasonably make some money on and pass down through generations to create his family fortune, whereas like the McFlys are a bunch of fucking just Irish immigrants who all they're doing is, what are they, farming dirt out in, like, they have this little shack. It's like, sorry guys, like they don't have any inventions. They got potatoes.
Yeah, maybe it's part 3, right? Doesn't he end up staying in the Old West?
He does, and then he eventually invents the steam-powered time machine.
There it is. He did The Man Who Fell to
So
Earth.
he's probably like, I don't know, like a slave owner or something in part 3, and we just don't see
at least
that.
had inventions.
That's the part 4 we don't see.
Oh no!
Part 4, the Civil War. Which side was Marty and Doc on?
It's about states' rights, Marty. We gotta go back.
Oh,
We don't need roads because we're just making people carry stuff anyway.
well, we make someone else make the roads.
Yeah.
The railroads, I guess, in this case. Well, the other like random things that I noticed more this time, especially thinking of it kind of in the theme of the podcast, is they refer, like, he gets a bunch of Libyan. Where are the
Libyans.
Libyans? He gets a Libyan, like, he refers to like Libyan terrorists to build them a bomb, and he builds them a shoddy fake bomb. Like,
The Libyans. I love that was a thing you could just say in the 80s, like, and that's not offensive or controversial.
right? Yeah, there's no way you could do that. Well, maybe soon. I don't know.
Yeah, we went on a little deep dive of Libya last night. By deep dive, we read like a paragraph on Wikipedia.
That's as deep as we go.
Yeah.
No stone uncovered. Yeah, but he refers to them as Libyan terrorists and Libyan nationalists. But I don't know a whole lot about Libyan
Why
history to understand, like, in 1985, why the choice of the writers to pick Libya as their Islamophobic caricature.
Yeah, and why were they in the U.S.? Is that a thing that, like, terrorists were hiding out in the U.S.?
That's probably a fear.
Yeah, I mean, security
okay.
was like notoriously lax during the Cold War, so like.
That's so true.
Well, he mentions like he doesn't know how they were able to find him, so they presumably he had to have built the fake bomb in America. Would he like send it to them in the mail? Just mail them a giant bomb or something.
Return
there's a little
garage next to Burger King.
There's some holes in this. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing when you saying, Mike, if you like get really into the deep of, like you go on like subreddits for it, you'll get all the like the time travel inconsistencies, how many in like the later movies, how many different time machines exist at any one moment. Because at some point there's like 4 of them in different moments in time. I
mean, that's not even to mention all the thing where like, what's the paradox where like if you interact with the past version or future version of yourself, then it like bends time and like everything fucks up and you just like ruin all of humanity in the universe. It's like, just stop, bro. It's like to be clear, like we are that podcast that's in the middle. It's like we're gonna be just having fun with it. We don't have to get too serious about it. It's like, I just really don't want to bother with all that nerd shit because that totally defeats the whole purpose of like a Zemeckis movie, right? Like,
yeah. Well, here's a question. Oh, go ahead.
I was
go ahead,
just going
Colin.
to say my favorite Reddit theory, and I know we're talking about the first one, but it's in the second movie, where Doc Brown shows up, I think 2 or 3 times, like just in the nick of time to save Marty in the time machine. And the theory is that if he knows exactly where to go just in time to save Marty, that means that in the second movie, Marty probably dies several times. And then Doc Brown shows up and is like, fuck, and has to go, like, keep going back and, like, trying multiple times.
That makes sense, actually. So he's really mess with the time space continuum or whatever they call it. Well, one of the things I was thinking about is because I think when you first see the town, they go see the clock tower and he's meeting his girlfriend, and sort of before he meets Doc later that night in the parking lot. Like you do, you just go to the parking lot at the mall to test out time machines.
Totally normal.
Yeah, by the JC Penney. But I feel like the town that he lived in was like the neoliberal hell that was like part of the 1980s. Everywhere you think of mall culture and you think of just the town, like, didn't look very nice. You have this old decaying clock tower. Like, in 30 years, they couldn't find a little bit of money. How much does it cost to fix a clock? I don't know. It just seemed like this Reagan era, because they have the Reagan joke later, and it's very like Reaganite, decaying neoliberal hell.
Right.
What did you say about Reagan?
Oh, yeah, that's the kind of lore of that line. And Evan, what you're mentioning is the line where he says, who's the president? Ronald Reagan. And okay, well, who's the vice president? Jerry Lewis. And the lore is that when Ronald Reagan saw that in the theater, he loved it so much that he requested that they roll back the film several times so he could rewatch it.
What a fucking
jerk himself
He
off.
used that line in the State of the Union address, actually.
Oh, yeah,
Did he?
dude.
Oh,
He referred to there are no roads in the State of the Union address in 1986.
An actor being narcissistic? No way.
No.
An actor who
And not
became
Reagan.
president very much in the style of Trump, like.
Well, it's actually pretty like astute kind of comment by Doc at that moment where he's saying like, no wonder your president has to be an actor because he had to be good on TV, and it's actually true. I mean, that's how someone like Reagan could become elected.
No, it's funny, Evan, until you just said it, I didn't realize that you're pointing out it's like the neoliberal hellscape. But this movie came out in 85, it was?
Yeah, 85.
So that's like supposedly the peak of neoliberalism. That's like when it was the best. It's like it trailed downward from that point on. And then even in the 90s, like people are looking back, like 90s nostalgia is huge right now. I don't know if you guys realize, but that is a big thing. If you guys want a page to pop off on TikTok, I sound like such a boomer.
I love that
TikTok or
you
Instagram.
You've said that so many times in our friendship.
Yeah,
so
I do that.
many
Yeah,
times.
I do it a lot. I'm old, you guys. I'm not trying to hide it. Like, but what I'm saying is like 90s nostalgia is. Nostalgia is really big because things are like in a steady decline. But like the idea that people were realizing that as it was happening, like during Reagan, to have suburbs where they have the newspapers flying by like tumbleweeds. They were showing homeless people even in the town in like the 80s. His suburb doesn't look all that great, and suburbs were supposed to be like where it's at, but they were purposely trying to show that like he's in the shitty part of the suburb until he comes back in the future when he's better off, when he has the truck, when he has like somebody working for him in his driveway and his parents are successful authors and everything, as opposed to like the first time around when they didn't do it right. And because it was like individually based, it's not that like he changed the culture or anything, he changed it for his family, for his individual circumstances. But still, like, it is a good astute observation on the director and producer part, like to recognize that neoliberalism was heading in that direction and point it out even back then, because that's definitely not the image that people have when they look back on it from our point of view today.
That is true. He actually says when he comes back at the end of the movie and he returns back to 85, he says everything looks great. When he looks around and there's like, people, unhoused people lying on benches, like gambling halls, like XXX theaters. To him, that is great. So maybe it's just his version of what great is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's got like a cool truck and his girl likes him a little more, so it's all good for him.
Yeah.
I did notice this.
We're putting
watch
too much
that-
deep meaning. Okay.
This watch was the first time I noticed that the porn theater, the movie showing is called Orgy American Style, and I was just wondering what the fuck that means.
Yeah. American style,
Well, it's
our kind of orgies.
well, and also when he arrives in 1955, I forgot to look this up, but as he's walking into town, there's a sign for a movie that's playing, and it's a Ronald Reagan movie.
Yeah, and Barbara Stanwyck.
Yeah, I don't remember what movie. Do you know what the movie is?
No.
Ronald Reagan fucks America. I don't know.
It's Orgy American Style.
Maybe that was a he was referring to the 1980s Ronald Reagan cabinet.
Literally the only thing I know about Barbara Stanwyck is that she used to ride like a horse side saddle in movies, and that was like her thing. And I was like waiting for some other kind of like reference to Barbara Stanwyck in the movie because Reagan is obviously referenced, but I didn't see anything. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Barbara Stanwyck. Again, boomer moment.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna find out what this movie is. It would have been 1955, right? They didn't. I don't know if they had a movie that came out that year together. They'd have to be, right? The Violent Men. Let's see.
This is also where all the nerds, like the Back to the Future heads, are like raging in their seats. Like, of course, it's the fictional universe that is made up for these guys. Like,
I mean, it could have been. I don't see a movie, at least at my first glance. Maybe there was like just a joke about Reagan because Reagan. Maybe they just were too popular. They're too popular movie stars in the 1950s. And the joke doesn't really land if Ronald Reagan, to use Ronald Reagan, that movie poster doesn't register as funny otherwise. I don't know.
It's called Cattle Queen of Montana.
Oh, man. I didn't. That was the one right before the one I looked at. So there you go. Yep. American Western film, as most of his were. I've never seen a Ronald Reagan movie before.
I haven't either.
Same. Was he kind of? He was kind of like a B movie guy, though, right?
Yeah. They weren't exactly like, they weren't, it was like the tier below John Wayne and the like.
Yeah.
But he parlayed that into being governor of California. A long tradition of actors to be governors of California. I guess there's just 2 of them. Not a long tradition. But I don't know. I don't know like what, I mean, rather than like going through the whole plot of this movie, I feel like is what I might do for, movies that are maybe more complex. I don't know. Anyone can maybe, I don't know, chime in on any of their, I don't know, like favorite scenes in this movie. I mean, we also should have to talk about the creepy scene where, McMarty is with his mom in the car too, but there's just so many classic, every scene is just a funny scene. So just pick one of them.
So part of the reason I also don't like to get bogged down in like the nerd stuff about it is because it ignores the art of the movie. Like it's the cinematic part of it, which is like, just realize that the time travel is just a plot device so that you can explore themes and like talk about stuff that like you couldn't have, like it's more interesting to me to talk about why the directors make the mom character so hot if incest is bad. It's like, why are you guys doing that? It's like, that says more to me about the director and producer than anything you're going to say about time travel. It's just like watching a Tarantino movie and seeing all the feet. It's like, what's going on here? Like, it's like, what was that meme that I've seen forever ago? It's like, the writer's barely disguised fetish, and it's like the title card of a movie. It's like, that's what I think is more interesting than like the intricacies of the time travel universes.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's weird.
Well,
it's really weird. What was the line? Okay, Cullen got like a big chuckle out of, whenever the dad, what's his name? Crispin Glover, who did phenomenal in this movie. He is so pathetic that I was like struggling because I don't want to see someone be treated like shit and then act it out so well. Like he was so, he broke my heart. Oh my God. he's such a weird man, but he really like bummed me out. Like every time I see this, it just bums me out. And Cullen was like, well, wait till the end because he's gonna get his comeuppance. And I was like, I don't want to wait till the end. I don't want to sit through a whole movie watching him be pathetic. It makes me so sad. Anyways, so Crispin Glover is, being a peeping Tom. I can't figure out who he was peeping at this point. Like, is this the mom? Is this the mom that he ends up marrying? Well, who's the mom? Is it Leah Thompson?
I thought it was. I thought he was like peeping on her.
It's
but
hard to
this,
tell.
The man that runs over him, who says,
Oh yeah, driving
like,
too fast for that to be his house.
well, but he looks over there and he's like, he like calls out to her. So I think the man lives there at that house. But what does he say? Like,
oh, he says another one of those damn kids jumped in front of my car.
like a bunch
this guy's just driving
people.
drunk, hitting kids.
Well, a bunch of people are like being peeping Toms and looking at this lady's titties, and that is really funny. That's really funny. Like thinking about like everyone, all of these boys are like up in this tree doing the same thing. That's fucked up.
Maybe they're looking at his mom's. Maybe looking at the grandma or like.
Oh yeah,
the mom's mom. I don't know.
That's fine.
I don't know.
that's fine.
Why'd you go there, Evan?
Marty's. That's not what I meant.
Well, they never show Leah Thompson's face, so I am always confused of, is this like the neighbor across the street, or they never explicitly say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You think of like a small town that the kids live in every house along, your little street, so it could have been any of the.
Again, this is also before they had TikTok. That was on purpose.
Yeah, and then later he's like, "Oh, what were you doing in the tree? Bird watching?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure that this 17-year-old kid was bird watching."
I don't know. He's a pretty big nerd. He could have been bird watching.
That's true. He is very.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing wrong with bird watching. There's
a lot wrong.
To go back
with
to your
bird
point,
watching.
Caitlin,
You losers. You bird
I
watching
think
losers.
one of the great things about this is how relatable all of these characters are. Like Crispin Glover, like he plays the awkward, just like underdog, like quote unquote nice guy, but like the real version of that, I guess. Well, actually, no, because he's the nice guy
Tom.
because he's still a peeping Tom. He's still a
Yes.
creep, but like he just thinks he's like the nice guy who just can't compete with like. And again, also the fucking alpha male is even worse of a dick. Like, it's, it's I just think it's funny because like they all are kind of relatable. Like it feels relatable. I think every person has at some point in life been an awkward Crispin Glover character, or at least felt that way, but then also felt like a champion. You never felt that awkward.
Not
Caitlin?
me. No.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
It's funny you were mentioning the different characters. I was noting down like at the beginning before he goes back in time, Biff comes over and he shows like he totaled his car and he's Marty's dad's Crispin Glover's boss, making him do his work. And the thing I wrote down was that this is like the microcosm of like the boss capitalist who doesn't do any work and makes all their like subjects do all the work for him. So he's coasting along. In school he made him do his homework. He's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything.
The dream.
I don't know.
It's the dream.
That's
American
the
dream.
Yeah.
Speaking of Crispin Glover, though, I have to mention that post this movie was responsible for some new SAG union rules about usage of clips from that were filmed for a previous movie but released in another movie. So the producer Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis have kind of maintained that Crispin Glover was an issue to deal with while making the movie, but Crispin Glover states that where that comes from is the last scene of the movie. He had a lot of issues with the materialism as kind of being the reward at the end of the film rather than like an emotional reward. So rather than focusing on like the confidence that his character's arc and Marty's relationship with his parents and seeing his parents happy for the first time. That's very brief, and then it's all about the truck. So Crispin Glover made a pretty big, or had a pretty big issue with that, and was refusing to film the last scenes, and eventually compromised. I don't know exactly what was changed of what was scripted, but there was some sort of compromise that happened. And then they used that as a way to, when the sequel came around, to really undercut what they were going to pay Crispin Glover to come back, whereas everyone else was making much more than he was, I think, which really was a tactic to get him to say no thank you, or try to renegotiate. And they had an excuse of, well, we asked, and he didn't come back. But what they ended up doing was they used alternate takes from the first film, and then they hired another actor and put makeup on him and had him do a Crispin Glover impersonation. So in part 2, whenever you see Crispin Glover, it's either it was either filmed on the last movie, or it's a completely different actor just with makeup on and doing an impression. But he sued the studio for, I think, like $760,000 and won. And now there are new union rules that if you utilize any sort of
likeness.
if you use your likeness, or if you use clips from another movie and release it on another film, that you have to negotiate and pay that actor for additional work.
What's even more insane about that story is that the scene where Doc is on the top of the clock tower and kind of puts the little metal hook around the thing and then, slides down. They use that clip in all 3 movies, but the stunt person who did it only recorded it one time, and they paid him for all 3. So apparently it was okay that they paid him 3 times, right. But it actually just makes it even more the fact they just did not like Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
I also imagine the stunt guy's probably a lot more underpaid than Crispin Glover.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, Crispin Glover was offered $125K for the second movie, and he wanted $250, and they wouldn't give it to him.
I mean, that's seems reasonable. I mean, did any of you guys happen to know, does Crispin have any history of being a comrade? Because it sounds like he was being pretty base in that situation. He was really pushing for the right thing there. That's literally seeing the future of AI as it's happening.
I feel like Crispin Glover is a weird, crazy, mystical creature. I see so many weird, or you occasionally see something about him, and it's the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah, he's a pretty strange. He's a pretty strange dude. So unfortunately, I think any, trying to do a deep dive on him and his worldview is probably mostly going to be people talking about how weird they think he is.
What was the Rat movie? That's the only other thing I know about him other than this.
Oh, Willard.
Yeah, there you go. That's the only thing I associate with him other than Back to the Future.
Wasn't he in the that American God series, I think? I never actually saw it. I just know he was in it.
He was also in, which Friday the 13th was he in? Was that the second one?
The final chapter.
Part 4.
When he is dancing. Oh my God. Incredible. I'll send you a clip, Mike. It's my favorite thing in the world.
I just watched that movie recently.
It's so
I'd forgotten
good.
he was in it. Yeah, Crispin. But I think what makes almost him being kind of a strange person in real life, I feel like the way he acted in the movie is also kind of strange. I think in the interviews people say his mannerisms were very odd and just. But I think it's perfect. I think no other person would have made that.
He's so awkward that he played an awkward nerd really well. Have you ever seen that clip of him freaking out on a talk show?
No.
It's weird. It's weird. I'll send it to you guys. Everyone look it up. I don't know. I think it was sorry, our French bulldog screaming in the background because we just got Popeyes. But I went to Olive Garden to eat my feelings today, so now Cullen is using that as his excuse to get Popeyes. What's the talk show that Crispin Glover was on?
He was on David Letterman, and I don't know the name of the movie, but he was in like an indie movie and he showed up dressed as the character that he was playing. And I think his intention was just to be like weird and just act like this strange character, but clearly like David Letterman's pretty pissed off about it. So it's like just a really awkward.
It's weird.
exchange.
It's like he's having a really bad acid trip.
Yeah. It's similar to, like, if you remember, Joaquin Phoenix did something similar.
Yes.
Which turned out to just be a scene from a movie he was going to do, but it's a similar thing where he's in costume, he's playing a character, and Letterman's just like.
But did you say it was called Willard? Is that the movie?
Willard is the like rat horror movie.
The Matt movie.
Oh, that's the one you were talking. So it wasn't that movie
Yeah,
that he.
no, it's
Okay.
not that. I can't remember what the name of it is.
He has a lot of credits. He's been in a lot of movies, but never really became what I would say as much of a star.
True, and I feel like the bad rap he got from Gale and Zemeckis probably had an impact on him getting more roles after Back to the Future. Because I mean, really, he's like he's incredible in that movie, and you'd think that would have like shot him into some sort of stardom, but. And I'm sure he had a
feel like
reputation
as much as
too. It's like he's, after the lawsuit especially.
I feel like as much as he had a say in the last scene, like the neoliberal individualist rewards for the McFly family, he probably should have tried to say more about the White Knight scene, which is like just beat up the potential rapist guy, which is like, I mean, I guess good, but like, yeah, I mean, the whole scene just feels very just like, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be 50s sounding. I guess that's the vision that people had of the 50s in the 80s. I don't know. I mean, what do you think our vision of the 50s and 80s is now? Do you think that we should say that it was definitely that bad in the 50s, but then also still that bad in the 80s, and then also probably still that bad today, and also that like white knighting is not the thing that's needed? It's more just like, how about just like teach Biff to stop being Biff? Like just in general, not even just the raping part, but just in general, like just go to therapy, Biff. Like, what's the overall theme for like what Biff should be doing and like what fucking Crispin Glover should tell Biff to do? Like other than punching him, Minore's fine, I guess. Minore's harmless.
I mean, yeah. How do you get
Biff's character is so weird. Oh, you're going to say something, Caitlin?
Not really. Just like, how do you get someone like Biff to become in touch with his emotions? Emotions
Biff's
other
the
than
incel.
anger.
Biff was like before there was Joe Rogan podcast. He was just like hanging
yeah.
out with his bros, drinking in like the junkyard.
But he started a small business, so there you go.
Good for
His,
him.
That's still Joe Rogan-ish. Like,
Pulled himself up by his bootstraps.
Yeah.
But the thing is, too, is like Biff isn't changed for the better at the end. He's just scared of Crispin Glover, and I'm sure just as fucking shitty as he was before.
Yeah, he just treats everyone else that way, just not
Right.
George McFly.
Yeah, he's going to continue the cycle of abuse. That's not a happy ending.
Yeah, fuck this movie.
No.
Yeah. Let's write a letter.
The one note I remember from one of the best lines too in the movie maybe is when he says like make like a tree and get out of here. Apparently that was an improv line. Like that was not in the script and he just said that.
What does it mean?
I almost like don't believe that, but supposedly it's true. What is his name? Thomas Wilson. So who knows?
Yeah. And
His Butthead
he's
also
fucking
was
awesome
apparently
in this movie,
improv.
too.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he's so good.
he is really
Like there isn't a bad performance in this movie, which I think is partly why, the pacing of the movie and every performance makes it hold up pretty well.
Who was the original guy that was going to play Marty McFly?
Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't have worked with him. I like how like, I don't know, gentle Michael J. Fox is.
Yeah, and
he's just like silly.
He's a silly. Right. He's like so tiny and bouncing around everywhere. He's got like little gnome vibes, and I don't think Eric Stoltz could ever touch that.
And there's like photos and like a couple of clips without sound of Eric Stoltz, but apparently all the footage still exists. It hasn't been destroyed, which was pretty common back then. And Bob Gale said eventually he's going to release.
Oh my God.
He's going to release it.
40-year DVD,
right? But the explanation that I've heard that kind of gives the best like view of what Eric Stoltz was doing, was he had more of a like approach of, well, I think Leah Thompson said like he was talking about like, oh, I see this as like a tragedy, like I'm back in time and it's sad. And so he had much more of like he was trying to like remove a lot of the jokes and was trying to like impose more of like a realistic look on things.
He's an actor.
But I think it was like 6 weeks that they shot with him, so I think the majority of the movie exists with Eric Stoltz somewhere.
Wild.
And apparently, like when they reshot, they really were careful with. They only reshot scenes where Michael J. Fox would be seen. So there are moments where Michael J. Fox is talking, and then there's coverage of other characters. And if you don't see Michael J. Fox, those characters were reacting to Eric Stoltz. So they didn't completely reshoot the movie.
No, Cullen with
I didn't know that part, but that makes sense because it cost so much money. They had to redo 6 weeks of all that work. So, and like the story, this is a nerd story. Sorry, Mike, but the way that they got Michael J. Fox is he had to literally shoot Family Matters during the day, and then he would get in a truck and sleep on the way to the other shoot till like 4 a.m, and then he would sleep for a few hours and then he'd do it again. So he basically shot like 20 hours a day.
Yeah, it makes me sick.
That makes me sick.
What it felt like.
Yeah, working 2 hours a day is too much, and that's not. Cullen's laughing, but it's really not a joke. Like I'm lucky enough that I can work for myself now, and I schedule like 2 hours a day, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
People like try and add stuff for me to do, and I'm like, I can't. I'm actually really busy, but I just gotta go home.
Yeah.
To be clear, Evan, when I say nerd stuff, I mean like
I know.
the Rick and Morty level stuff. When you start talking about like time loop quantum theory, and you're like, well, actually, sir. And I love Rick and Morty. I'm purely deflecting. Like I'm really just projecting my own nerdness and my want to project my nerdness onto other people. I don't want to be a nerd, but I can't help it. But I also like I think a lot about like the unspoken kind of themes of the movie. Like I think of like the band that Marty McFly is kind of imposing himself on as like the coolest people in the story. It's like they're just there to like show up and play a gig. They're getting paid to play this like high school fucking dance for a bunch of nerdy ass white people to play this like awful music. And then like he gets up and he's like, oh yeah, let's really rock it. And they're just like, yeah, what the fuck is this shit, dude? But then like they gotta be like, oh, this new sound you're looking for. Like really, the white guy has to invent black music by stealing it from the fucking black guy. Like
yes,
and that's something that definitely has been explored in like YouTube videos. But like what has not been explored about that, like stealing Chuck Berry's music and reinventing black music like Elvis did, but like the fact that like you have to like waterfall pussy from the band from Marty McFly to then his dad for then him to be born. It's like he had to like go and rock the house and like then divert all the attention to Crispin Glover's character with the whole fight scene and everything else that he contrives and everything. It's like basically what I'm saying is the musicians are the cool guys, and even them, like even Marty McFly was just like not the cool one in the situation because like he's getting up there like as a stranger with like these guys who play regularly, and they're just like, you're only here because like one of us suffered a tragic accident to his hand at the fault of like some other like white boys like locking somebody in a trunk or something. It's like because they were like, we were trying to smoke weed in peace and you guys had to come and disrupt all their shit. It's like it's very typical for me.
It's the weirdest gig of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the in the movie Animal House when the band plays like the frat house. It's like the same vibe. Just I guess 20 years later. But the one thing I was going to say is Marty could have played the song from his own band from the audition for his own like school, but didn't. He had to play a good song.
Yeah, why isn't he playing Huey Lewis?
Yeah.
And why isn't it
That's true.
Dan
He
Lewis?
could have played Back in Time by
like,
Huey
hey,
Lewis. I mean,
Huey,
Yeah.
my cousin Huey, you know that new drug you're looking for?
Oh. Yeah, that whole yeah, there's what was I gonna say? You were talking about the band. I don't know what it was. Yeah,
smoking weed in the car, man. That's like what was the situation where somebody got in the trunk? Like, why does somebody get in the trunk to begin with, and they had to?
Biff's friends grab him and throw him in the trunk to
Okay.
so he could rape his mom.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Nice.
Solid
White boy
plan.
shit.
Wow.
I got it.
Yeah.
What if that was Doc Brown's idea? I got it, Marty. Pretend. Make them think you're raping your own mom.
But that actually makes sense, Doc. There's no way you would have thought of that plan yourself.
Also, what if?
And he only
what if
just
it
met Doc
actually-
Brown.
What if it actually worked? Like that, it actually happened the way they were intending to, and Biff never showed up, and Leah Thompson is just like, what the fuck are you doing? Because obviously he's not gonna how far was Marty's intention to go to make Leah Thompson think that he was actually trying to sexually assault her? And then when Crispin Glover comes out and they have the most awkward fake wrestling match of all time, I don't think it's gonna work. I think she's just gonna be like, these two guys are really fucked up.
Yeah. And
That's
then
probably
they
true.
get married.
And then
he
they
marries.
He fucks his own dad. Hell yeah.
That's the woke plot twist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Back to the
That's what the liberals would make.
Back to the bussy.
Back to the woke future.
where we're going. We don't need woke. Yeah. I mean, God, the other thing about the, you were saying something, Mike, about the neoliberal thing. One other thing I noticed, both in the past and the present, the mayor, from 1955, and then what's the Mayor Red Thomas, I think is the old one. Both of them, they announced their slogan, and it was progress. They both were running on progress from 1955 to 1985. So it's they still hadn't gotten the progress thing they wanted yet.
True. Yeah, I also felt it was kind of, if you see the state that, is it Hill Valley? Is that the name of the town? The state of Hill Valley in 1985, it's not a good look for Mayor Goldie Wilson, because he's also looking for re-election, so I assume he's been the mayor for a while. It's tough for Goldie.
Yeah. I just presumed it was California, even though they never say, where it is.
Yeah, same.
Moderately progressive, where they could have elected a black mayor in the early 1980s. I don't know. That was supposed to be a progressive-y thing they threw into the plot, I feel too.
But also true to form, you can elect the black mayor and then still nothing materially changes. You've changed the face of the representation, and what has really changed in practice. Yeah, we could say that's another really astute progressive observation on Zemeckis' part. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I don't... Given his work in other movies, I don't know that he was aiming to make any kind of progressive themed movie. I mean, I could be wrong, but just kind of what I generally know about him. I feel this is just kind of the Spielberg, because they needed Spielberg basically to help make this movie too. It's no one would take the script, no one would make the movie, and Spielberg helped them get it through. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can also just be a somewhat observant, intelligent person and recognize trends and then project those into the future. Especially if you're going to make a movie where you're saying, let's project current trends into the future and say, oh, people really like money. That's the most important thing. Well, let's have a guy who just succeeds to power by just gambling. Literally through no productive producing anything, like making anything of value for anyone, no like actually delivering services and goods to people, just gambling, just like betting on things because he has prior knowledge. It's like that you can ascend to the heights of power just by gambling. And to say that in like the mid 80s, like when you're seeing like the rise of like the me generation, the Coke and financial era, it's like Wall Street was big. This is around the time of like the Gordon Gekko era. Makes sense.
Yeah, that actually I give Crispin Glover more props now that he like tried to take a stand and make the movie less, commercial at the end. That's one fact I didn't know. Yeah. That's a good one.
I think it would be better, truly,
if it was
the whole thing with the truck. It just doesn't really fit. It's a weird ending. And Marty doesn't really have an arc when you think about it, too. Like, he doesn't really learn anything.
Okay, hear me out. Did you guys see About Time?
Yeah.
With Bill Nighy. The About Time Back to the Future crossover. It's like not quite as much of a chick flick as About Time. Not quite as much of a bro classic as Back to the Future. And instead of getting a truck, Marty spends more time with his dad with his time machine now as a result of that's what he uses for the benefit. So it's like a little more sentimental and less capitalist.
I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like if he had like, let's go play catch in the backyard, Dad, or something.
Sorry, I stepped on you.
But yeah, that would have been the sentimental moment. But that's not what they wanted. They needed that. Like, and it's funny, they didn't plan a sequel when they made this. So like the end of this movie is kind of like just a joke. Like, haha, we actually went to the future. So I like it even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other hidden themes? Any other like subtle things other than like the black band was like the coolest people of the movie?
Well, hear me out with this. Why couldn't Marty, when he was back in the future or back in the past, why couldn't he have done some, I don't know, infiltrating of government and got communism or something? Why didn't he start the Vanguard Party in 1955? I guess it's the height of the Cold War. He was kind of
Yeah, it never would have come out.
I don't know. What else could he have done?
Definitely could have like snuck in an arc where he like foils the Soviet Union in some way. Like he makes some kind of phone call or something. Like, I don't know. I'm not clever enough to think of a thing off the top of my head, but like you definitely could have snuck in an anti-communist arc for sure. But like a pro-commie one, no. I think like the extent of the anti-communist message you could have got in there was what Crispin Glover did, or just like any of the like subtle digs at neoliberalism and like profit over all messaging. That's about as progressive as you can get for this era, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who's the guy that did this? Zemeckis?
Zemeckis.
Yeah. What are some of his other movies?
Back to the Future 2.
Okay.
You said Spielberg was
Back
involved,
to the
right?
Future 3. Sorry.
He directed Forrest Gump.
Yeah, he did Forrest Gump. He did Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Contact, I think, too.
Yeah. What's the
But I think the fact that he
Denzel
did
Washington airplane movie?
Oh.
It's just called Flight.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
And I mean, a lot of them are with
I'm drunk right now.
Spielberg, like as a producer, a lot of the time.
I quote that one all the time. No reason.
Well, and that's I didn't even think about this. The fact that he did Forrest Gump. Did I just miss you say something, Mike?
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Well, the fact that he did Forrest Gump makes the fact that he invented something all the more funny. Like that's like his. Even though Forrest Gump is based on a movie, I made a book.
We all got dogs. It's cool.
Yeah, my dog's like
dogs?
scratching on the floor. Like it. What's that?
What kind
It
of
is a
dog
dog,
is
yeah.
it?
It's like a little sheepdog.
We have 4 dogs because we're fucking idiots. If anyone ever wants to get
I have
4
4
dogs,
dogs.
don't do it. Do you really?
Yeah.
Why don't we talk
How
about
many dogs do you
this?
have?
One of my dogs.
I'm losing my
One of my dogs
mind.
died, and I still have 4 dogs.
Oh my
I have
god!
2 dogs, so I feel I'm in the. the lower dog.
We have 4 dogs and 2 cats because we're fucking stupid. It's awful. Our life is a nightmare.
Speaking of like the dog, this is a funny note that I just learned is like the scene at the beginning when when Doc's dog goes into the time machine for the first test. Apparently, when they screened this as like before it was released, they didn't tell people it was a comedy, and everyone thought like the dog was gonna like blow up or die or something horrific. Because they didn't realize. I thought that was a great note.
Honestly, when I was watching it last night, I've seen this movie several times, but I just wipe it from my brain because it's just not. I feel like I'm going to get like beat up. Like somebody's going to come to my house and beat my ass. Some nerd is going to come to my house and beat my ass and be like, "Why were you on this podcast if you don't even like the subject material?" Well, because my husband does and I support him, but I like forget every time I see this movie. I forget what happens in it. But where was I going with this? Please edit this out.
I think you were going to talk about the dog.
Oh, I was scared. Yes, I was scared for the dog. I like whenever they whisked him away in the car, I was like, "Oh no, yeah, he's definitely gonna die." But then he came back untouched. When the car came back frozen, I was like, "He fucking froze to death. Great." But no, he was alive. That's my story.
Is that because like of the plutonium that it gets really cold? Like I'm not a chemist, but because in the later version with the
I'm
new,
not a time traveler, so yeah, I
don't ask us.
Understand either.
And the thing is it doesn't do that
just look cool.
any other time. It goes back or bit.
Yeah,
it goes to the past or to the future. It's never frozen again. It was just that first time.
Well, I just assumed that in like the later version when they have the it doesn't use plutonium, it uses food or whatever.
Trash.
Yeah, it's like a composting machine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, part of me wants to like talk about how like the second one's vision of the future, but save that for another time, for another episode.
It holds up.
But yeah, I just think it's funny the way that they like the problems that they've solved for the future are like not the ones that they should have been solving.
No.
Yeah, some of those questions are where we actually should have had some representation from the Rick and Morty style nerds for these movies. Like, we should have asked someone who like really dives into the lore, like why it's either consistent or inconsistent, why time travel somehow freezes the outside of the car. Because he does say like he needed a DeLorean because it has the all metal exterior
And it looks cool.
It does look cool, and it's like he says something about the cosmetic nature of it, but like, yeah, it gets cold. But like, I'd never noticed until you just pointed out that it doesn't get cold any other times. That's the only time it freezes. Like.
Yeah, I don't remember if it does it when he gets to 1955. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sure someone's could freeze frame it and see if there's ice crystals on the handle or something. Yeah, I don't. There's some other like random facts about this movie that I thought were funny, but I can't remember any of like the good ones at the moment.
Do you plan on doing the other sequels?
Yeah, I think we need to do the other ones at some point.
Do you happen to remember, Evan, who was it that recently pointed out on one of your other episodes that the trope of like Rube Goldberg machines that make breakfast in the 80s that just don't happen anymore in movies, and like they were definitely a thing that happened all the time?
I think that was on the Brazil episode.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was Chris might have said that. I think.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like, and until he said that, I was like, wow, like I've seen that in a bunch of movies, and like you do not see it anymore.
Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It's a weird thing.
Oh yeah, bring it back.
Bring it back, bitch.
There's honestly that first few minutes with all the clocks and the machines going.
Laundry's done.
There's nothing cozier to me than the first like 5
The
minutes
clocks,
of this movie. And the model.
What I was hoping too is they show like all of what's that?
The model
Sorry, I
scene
cut you
too.
off.
Whenever he's doing the exposition of like, here's what we're gonna do to get the electricity to the thing.
Oh yeah.
I could watch that scene every day.
He's like, I didn't have time to put it, make it to scale, or paint it. Why did he need to make the model to begin with?
Because it's
Also,
cool.
yeah, the big. I'll say like the biggest like less. I don't know, kind of thing that everyone always asks Zemeckis about the movie not making sense is how did his parents not remember meeting him? like later when they had a child that looked like
Yeah,
him.
dude.
And apparently their explanation is that it was 30 years ago. They only saw him for a couple days when they were 17. Like, would you remember something when you were 17?
Yes.
I don't,
when they fell in love.
That's when they fell in love. What the fuck? And he had.
And also to name
a
your
weird-
kid after him.
Yeah, they did name the kid
Yes.
after him.
Oh my god.
They should have named him
fucked
Calvin
up.
Klein. That would have been more fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, the thing with the kids in the sequel, too, which I know you'll probably talk about the sequel, but I'm just now thinking, did they need to go into the future to stop his son from getting arrested, or could he just say, like, hey, Marty, by the way, maybe this week in 2000, whatever, just go on vacation or something and bring the family with you?
That's true.
It's bullshit.
I would have saved a lot of
These movies are
trouble.
bullshit.
Yeah, fuck this trilogy. This is the worst trilogy of all time.
Fuck this. They
Everyone.
need to let us make the fourth one.
That's right.
Well, I saw that Zemeckis owns the rights to the movie, so he says as long as he's alive, they will not make a remake of these. So as soon as he dies, they're going to make like Back to the Future Part 4.
Oh, yeah.
All right, how old is Zemeckis?
Let's see. He is 71.
Okay. Is he married? We could do. I'll divorce Cullen. We'll do an Anna Nicole Smith type situation.
He is.
Will wait till he dies. I'll inherit the rights. We make the fourth movie. Thank
They
you.
go back to the Bolshevik Revolution.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh
Where
my
they-
God, yeah.
Do something else. I don't know.
No, that's perfect.
I think you're saying before, Mike, is like the second one like somehow holds like a place in my heart for the just all the futury stuff, but this one I think is like the better movie.
This one, it's definitely the better made movie. I think the third one's pretty strong too, but I love all of them, even with how ridiculous the second one is. Just because, like you said, as a kid, like all the futuristic stuff. I mean, there's flying cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another. Why were his brother and sister there when he returned back to his 1985? Like, if they were like successful, why were they living at their parents' house? The guy had like a nice suit on and
True.
everything. Why were they having breakfast
And
there?
Yeah, that's the whole
This
like
is stupid shit. Stupid questions.
yeah, the capitalist like wet dream of it too. It's like they still live in the same neighborhood. Like they're really reaching to be.
They
like,
live next door.
He's like this rich and successful. Like just, yeah, it should have just focused on like he's seeing his parents happy for the first time, or like, oh, I understand my parents now, and then they were so like alien to me.
Yeah. Like Crispin
See, the
Glover
first time
wanted.
they were
Like
like
Crispin wanted.
Yeah.
Release the Crispin cut.
they were like
Yes.
weak fail kids the first time though.
Fail
Like the first time it was bad, and they like were staying at home because they didn't have any prospects. But the second time, they were staying at home because they were banking all the money from their gigs and their side gigs, and they also had houses, but they were renting those out because they were Chad landlords. That's why they were at home.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it's totally different. Still at home.
So they
but for
invented
different
Airbnb,
reasons.
is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fuckers. Yeah. The thing with the like brother and sister, I feel like isn't like is kind of like throwaway. Like the only interesting part is like the picture that he has that they're disappearing, and so the whole thing. Yeah, it is actually amazing though that there are really only 6 characters in this movie. 5. The parents, Marty,
Yeah, not many.
Doc, and Biff. Really, and then you have the sister and brother like briefly.
Yeah, the principal,
The Libyans.
Slacker. The Libyans.
Yeah. Oh yeah. With Strickland.
Yeah.
I like the scene with Strickland in the sequel, the second movie. I love that one where he's just shooting off the gun. See, that's the thing where you talk about like the neoliberal hell with like them making Biff after like Donald Trump in the second one. Like that's the neoliberal hell that this is trending towards, right?
Yeah, and the woke take is that Strickland is gay coded. I don't know why. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
I think it makes sense.
That's going to end up picking up steam on the right.
Well, he's not like in the second one. They don't show
Not
him like
married.
with a wife like on the porch. You
Never.
know?
Yeah.
So maybe
he's
just
really
hairless,
like critical
totally hairless,
of Doc Brown,
smooth.
so maybe there was a relationship there.
There's some tension. Yeah.
maybe Einstein's his dog and he took him or something. I don't know. Custody battle.
He got him.
Be.
Yep.
Could be.
Also, one of the things that's just like now occurring to me as we're like, I don't know if we're getting close to wrapping it up, but like, sort of something that's like occurring to me is like the restraint that you have to show if you make any kind of time travel movie. Because if I made a movie or any kind of creative project about any of the different scenarios that I daydream about on a daily basis, to be able to hold back like every possible situation I can envision, like that would be very difficult to make like an actual entertaining narrative that follows like a plot structure of a movie or something. Like that'd be really difficult because I have all these kinds of different scenarios that I think about all the time. Time travel being one of the many. But yeah, it's actually really difficult to make like a real narrative out of that, I think, because especially when you have so many characters, like you're saying, like I have these brother and sister characters, they totally could have used them and had like a whole side plot where they like do some kind of different things with their newfound future, but it's like all they do is like have a little more success, you know?
Right.
Yeah, we don't know if Uncle Joey didn't go to prison, right? They had that
True.
like multiple
Nothing
jokes
changed
about him
for
being
him.
in prison.
He could have been Lennon.
Could have
Instead,
been.
he's locked in the prison industrial complex.
Do you all know about the original ending? The original scripted
No.
ending? It was instead
do.
of using the lightning plot device, they were going to have a whole scene where they broke into a nuclear power plant, and there was going to be a big like atomic bomb situation, and the time machine was originally made out of a refrigerator instead of a DeLorean.
Yeah.
In the original draft of the script. And if you notice,
was
Steven
cool.
Spielberg used both of those elements in the opening of Indiana Jones 4 with an atomic bomb going off and hiding in the refrigerator.
It would have been interesting if they'd done the atomic bomb because like a year later was Chernobyl. I don't know if those have any correlation, but it would have been.
That would have spawned some conspiracy theories. Like
Oh, yeah.
Kubrick style conspiracy theories for sure.
Roger Zemeckis had like sabotaged Chernobyl from the future.
No, he knew about some secrets because obviously the CIA was involved in script notes on Back to the Future. So of course they told him that Chernobyl was going to blow up in the future because they were already sabotaging it. And so then he would plant that in people's minds. Yeah, it makes total sense. The conspiracy's already there. It's done.
Just post it on Reddit. We're done. We're done here.
Yes.
In fact, that's a conspiracy. They nixed it at the last moment because they thought it would be too obvious. So then they went with the lightning.
Well, I feel like the nuke would have had to change how many gigawatts it was because I'm sure the nuke is probably way more. I don't know. Or I guess they're just using the plutonium. They're not using. Yeah, I also one of my favorite lines is when Doc is when he's saying like, "Oh, you just need plutonium." He's like, "Oh, I'm sure in 1985 you can just go to a store and buy plutonium."
Yeah.
I don't know why that just gives me it gave me a chuckle. I'm like, "Oh yeah, just go buy some plutonium next to like the Viagra section or something." I don't know. I don't have any.
I feel like
oh, go ahead.
if they remake Back to the Future now and he puts trash in there, there's definitely going to be an energy drink that he dumps into it when he says we don't eat roads. Like
Surge.
rather than a banana peel, it's going to be like Monster. Like,
Wasn't that the green bottle or a Jolt Cola maybe?
Dang.
Surge was the green. Yeah. It was like green
Yeah.
with like red, I don't know, lightning bolts.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Or they can make a universe out of Idiocracy and use what's the drink they have in that?
oh yeah,
Oh shit.
I don't remember though. Something with electrolytes. I know they were important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
It's
electrolytes.
not. It's some sort of Gatorade pun.
God.
I have to look it up because Brondo. Brondo.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I didn't. And I think it was like the symbol was like basically the same as Gatorade too. They're like, we're just gonna make fun of Gatorade, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any other. We talked about all like the good scenes. I mean, what makes this movie so good is that all the actors' performances are good. The script is good. The plot is good, minus like little inconsistencies. It's funny. It's clever. There weren't really many time travel movies like this at the time. I feel like it was a whole new thing, so it's a banger.
Yeah.
It's a nice, lighthearted romp.
Yeah. Only rivaled by Time Cop.
Ooh.
Hell
Greatest
yeah.
time travel movie of all time.
Is Time Cop the JCVD?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
The mullet era.
Yeah, it's in Time Cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't
I've
seen
seen a
Time
lot
Cop?
of JCVD because Cullen did at the beginning. So before VHS Action Rewind, he originally started that page to do, like, he was bored at the beginning of COVID, so he was going to watch a Jean-Claude movie every night and then review it. And so it started off as like a Jean-Claude tribute page, and then he got into like collecting VHSs. And then it just snowballed.
Yeah, I started at the beginning of his filmography, and I watched a movie every single night.
Like, he has so many movies.
He has a lot.
So many.
Are you
I
telling me
watched,
you
I
guys
watched
started-
31 movies, and I don't even think I got to the halfway mark.
Was he in the movie
But Time
Time
Cop
Out?
is great.
Like the hockey movie?
What is it?
Is that Jean-Claude Van Damme? Was it Time Out where it's like a hockey explosion or something? Is that a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie?
Sudden Death is the Die Hard.
Sudden
ripoff
Death,
where
that's
it's-
Yeah,
Is that a
that's
hockey
it.
game?
That's it. Yeah, I got the name wrong. What were you saying, Mike?
I'm just kind of blown away. I thought that they had started VHS Action Rewind like way before COVID. Like,
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like a COVID way for me to not go completely insane.
The last few years are such a blur, man. I can't believe that was that recent. It just feels like it was like 5 years ago that you were doing that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like 3. I don't think we've recorded anything in like 2 years.
Yeah.
We need to start doing that again. That was really fun.
Yeah. Maybe if everybody claps their hands.
If everyone sends us encouraging messages, you might get a video.
If you clap your hands, we'll come back like Tinkerbell.
Yes.
Oh. I'm trying. I went through a period where I watched a bunch of.
Brackets.
No, I was
They're too
enamored by
stunned to speak.
the
They're excited.
by the cover Double Team, the Dennis Rodman Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from like the mid '90s.
That's my
which
favorite.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't
That's
believe
my favorite
exists.
cover.
They're saved by Coca-Cola.
God.
Like, I think Mickey Rourke is in that too. I feel like it has like a pretty sick cast. I mean, I can't believe Dennis Rodman did a couple movies. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. I love like 80s action movies. I wouldn't say it's like my top. I feel like for me, like horror movies always seem to get in there, but I love a good
Same
80s action movie.
I don't love a
The
good
movie that I
80s
haven't
action
done yet.
movie.
Is Total Recall, which I need to do. It's been on my list since the beginning. And one of my first episodes was RoboCop, and the person who was on, a friend of mine, he's been like, "Oh yeah, we got to do all the Verhoeven movies." And I did Starship Troopers without him, and he was like kind of mad, I think. So he didn't actually say that. He probably wasn't mad, but I felt bad. So now I'm like, I got to promise him Total Recall.
Did you?
Or Basic
okay,
Instinct.
whenever in is it RoboCop when he says "bitches leave"?
Yeah.
Okay, whenever he's like "bitches leave," Colin and I say that to each other all the time. But do you know the lore behind that?
No, I don't. And I this is like one of my favorite movies. I don't know.
Cullen will tell you all about it.
So Verhoeven misunderstood and thought bitches was a term of endearment. So he thought it was like excuse me ladies, like that sort of a thing. So that's why it's in the script, but apparently when they were filming the scene, because he thought it was like a term, like a kind thing to say, the two women that were acting in the scene, he kept being like, okay, so the bitches are going to be over here, and then bitches, you come over here. No one corrected.
Oh my god, this.
Oh my god.
What's funny is like I remember joking that like if I could pick like an act like a director or someone to like come on as like a guest, I feel like Paul Verhoeven would just be a fun person to talk, just because his movies are all just so good and just like end to end, just great catalog of movies, especially like Total Recall, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, all those I could say are my favorite. But I bet he'd be a funny guy to talk to, and you just have to ask him to tell that story. Be like, oh, so you think bitches are good people, or I don't know.
What are you saying? They're not?
You've seen the new documentary that I think it just came out like a month ago on RoboCop?
I haven't
It's
yet.
called-
I've been meaning to though.
Yeah, it's RoboDoc. It's really good. It's like 4 hours long, but they cover some things I had never heard of before, which was
Interesting. Is that where this story came from?
Yeah, I'd heard that before, but they do mention it, and they interview the actresses that were there on the day, and they talk about him just referring to them as
Interesting.
bitches all day.
Yeah, I have to watch that. I could easily spend 4 hours learning about RoboCop. That sounds like a great time. Yeah, and there's a bunch of documentaries on Back to the Future. There's all the deleted scenes. I think I have like the 20th and the 25th anniversary Blu-rays, and I just stopped buying them because you can just get the extra shit online if you want to, or download them in quotation marks somewhere. But yeah, I got nothing else on Back to the Future, but I'll have plenty to say about the sequels. We'll have to do the sequels.
Yeah. I have not seen 3, and I didn't know that it existed, so...
oh yeah, 3's good.
Okay.
I like 3.
I can't even... you mentioning a Western, I can't even picture it. So, yeah.
I mean, Mayor
excited to
Steenburgen's
watch
character
that.
is probably one of the best in the whole series. Like, if there is a feminist character, it's hers. Like, she makes it out to the Wild West on her own, doing her own thing, still attaches herself to a man and needs a lot of protection and help along the way, but, like, is the closest thing to, like, an independent woman you get in the whole fucking trilogy. Like,
Okay.
That's true. I'm going to cut that from this part, and I'll play that in that episode.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I
Hell
won't do
yeah.
that. But it's true.
come on, bro, it's your podcast.
It was like perfectly mentioning, or you can just repeat it. You can restate it in the third one. Yeah, I don't know. I
Plus,
just
Mayor
love these.
Steenburgen, she's so pretty.
What?
She's lovely.
Who is it?
She's very pretty. Mary Steenburgen, right? The woman from Step Brothers.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a unique hotness.
She would just be like hot for like the majority of her life, which like most people are unable to do.
Yes, that's a really good description. Is that she's just always hot.
Yeah, and Step Brothers and this came out 35 years apart.
Yeah, dude.
Probably 2010 and 1985. So, or no, I guess the sequel came out in 1990. Third one. Anyway, all of them are good. And Step Brothers is good. Unrelated. I don't know. But Colin or Kayla, you have any last parting Back to the Future words?
No, I think I wish we could see the version where he fucks his dad.
Jesus Christ.
I think that's the lesson I've learned on this
Yeah.
podcast.
Well,
It's much better than I was going to say aspire to be dudes in the band who just lay in the back and smoke weed on the breaks rather than like the white boy who tries to steal the show. But no, I like Cullen's better. That's better.
well, you could also maybe make the case that Biff himself was repressed in some sense, and that's his, character arc.
Why
maybe.
he's why he's doing masculinity to the extreme.
Especially
The obvious try hard
right.
Biff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the Donald Trump version in the sequel where he's He's just Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing left, but Mike, you can tell everyone you've been on before, but you can tell everyone about Turn Leftist too.
Oh yeah, I mean, check out Turn Leftist podcast. I actually am trying to release some regular episodes. So usually like collabs with other people or live episodes, but I plan on bringing Caitlin Cullen out of retirement to record some probably Patreon episodes on Operation Gladio again. I felt so bad doing like literal psychological damage to them when we recorded like 3 episodes on Operation Gladio before. Sorry, you guys, but
I'm glad I know. I feel like it made me a better communist knowing about it, because it is like so fucking crazy. Like, it's one of those things that like I knew about Operation Paperclip, and then like you learn about Operation Gladio, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's just so crazy. I was actually recommending it to my friends today because they were like, we're gonna go listen to Conpod, and I was like, actually you should listen to like the Operation Gladio episode with Turn Leftists, and I was like, you're gonna want to kill yourself afterwards. You can take that out, but yeah, I mean, it's just like, it is fucking depressing, but it's really important. Like, everyone should know about it. Yeah, I would like to record like a bunch more CIA op episodes. I feel like that's
yeah, but that's all to say, like, that's why I was like kind of quiet when you guys were saying like clap and you can bring us out of like our silence, like, because I was already trying to do that. Like, I want to record with you guys. I have some ideas in the works, Operation Gladio being one of them, because I feel like it's more relevant nowadays as our government is arming and funding a lot more Nazis in Europe and being kind of overt about it, and people are just like not finding that weird and not kind of seeing any connections to history. So if anybody's interested, definitely subscribe to our Patreon if you want to. I also just noticed that like Patreon changed their whole layout, and like I posted an episode to there and I tried to make it just like for subscribers only, and it said like, well, first you have to make a tier, which I have never done because our Patreon has always been like $1 a month and you get everything. $5 a month you get the exact same things because we're communists and we're bad at business. But that's just how it works for our Patreon. If you give us any money, it's not going to any of us personally, any of the hosts. It goes to the people who write our notes and help us with editing. We just give all the money to them, and we donate our time. And I'm like literally, the Patreon is $1,000 in debt to me because I just keep paying these people. We keep making episodes, and then I keep not releasing them because I'm so OCD about these episodes and they're not good enough and up to my standards. So sooner or later, you guys are going to get a whole bunch of fucking clip episodes where I just cut like usable parts of episodes that have not been released, and you're going to get a whole bunch of like best of parts. But until then, just deal with like not getting some stuff and then probably getting some stuff in a little bit. It's all to say, like, check out my podcast, but more importantly, check out Caitlin's Conspiracy Corner. Go ahead, you guys do your plug. Sorry.
Yeah, we like to do like a marathon recording like once a year.
Yeah. We'll record like 3 episodes.
And then Cullen will stress for months, and I'll be
like,
the
bipolar
you have
style.
to. Yeah, I'm like, you have to edit it, please. You're tearing this relationship apart. And then finally he'll edit them.
They come out all at once.
And then they come out all at once.
And then you gotta wait another year.
You gotta wait another year. Yeah. But they're really good. So, yeah. And they're like more lighthearted conspiracies. So it's not as like you won't feel so bad after those episodes.
Yeah. And if to the one person on our Patreon who is Mike, I'm sorry that you're also not getting the perks. I know we owe you lots of feet pics.
We owe you a lot of feet pics. We owe you a lot of mozzarella stick reviews. Listen,
I listened to a couple of the recent. I didn't know you had a podcast till Mike mentioned it. Like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. We're doing another episode. I forget. Yeah, and I was listening to some of the recent ones, Flat Earth and. I don't remember the other one.
Yeah, I don't know.
There are some good ones. Like, I really like
the feet. I kept hearing like the thing about the feet pics.
Yeah.
Operation Washtail with you, Mike. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, and we'll release like Turn Leftist ones on ours, just so we look like we
did something.
We do. But yeah, I think
I like the Veiled Prophet one. That's my favorite.
That's a really good one because it's like St. Louis based. Shannon is like, she's the best one about being like, guys, let's record. And then I'm like, yes, I really want to. And then we don't say anything. But like Zach is super busy. He's got like a full-time job and becoming an audio engineer, like going to school. So he's always busy. Yeah, and Mark, who knows what he's doing? He's a college professor, but yeah, he's just, we're like, Mark, be there at this time, and he's like, okay, and he shows up and he doesn't have a shirt on. He's in a dark room on his phone, sounding muffled.
Too busy getting laid.
Confused. So that's our podcast. I hope that we've sold it to you and you'll listen to it. And join our Patreon so Mike isn't lonely.
No, it's very funny. It's I was thoroughly entertained, and would be happy to hear more content, and yeah.
We have a couple
and you can
things in like the backlog that we need to edit.
That's where I'm kind of at now. Is I have a bunch that I have done that I need to edit to, and I just keep recording them and being like, okay, well now I need to edit them, and then I have more of them, and
just stack them
eventually I just have to do it because I get like very anxious if I don't do it. I make myself.
Editing sounds awful. That's the reason that like
it's the worst.
We stopped doing VHS Action Rewind because like I'm not going to learn to edit. That would be insane. So Cullen has to do it, but he also works a lot, so it's me working my 2 hours a day and then refusing to learn how to edit and making Cullen do it, and it's too much. And like video editing looks like, I've watched Cullen do it, looks like a fucking nightmare. So I really love doing that. VHS Action Rewind, but it's hard.
Yeah, but they're still out there. You can go check them out.
Yeah.
We've done some.
Yeah, I don't even bother editing the videos. I'm just like, that's on YouTube as is, unless like something was like very, controversial that had to be removed. Like I just take the whole thing down. I think Brandon might have had one once where I had to beep something out, but from Cars and Comrades. But yeah, so then I don't know. Maybe
He's notorious for the N-bombs, man.
Oh,
I don't know.
Joking.
I'm like kind of weird.
Joking. He just makes credible threats against like the people you should be making credible threats against, but like you just have to remove him. It's fine. It's just what you get for working with Brandon. He's a great guy. I love him.
It's a lot of like redacted.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
I understand.
0 N-bombs from Brandon. That was a joke.
Yeah. He forgets to say in Minecraft at the end of his statements.
How many people are Cars and Comrades? Oh yeah, we're just shooting the shit. You can
4.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I can.
You're still on YouTube, right?
We are, but I can just do that. You already told me about your podcast, but I'll just you can listen to this podcast wherever podcasts are available, just like all of podcasts. I mean, that's kind of pretty self-explanatory. And you can subscribe, follow Instagram, don't follow on TikTok. I don't really use that much anymore. But we will catch you next time.
Bye.
That was a very awkward outro. We might have to